Hi everyone, welcome to Curious Minds Academy. Today in this session, we are continuing with Section F Professional Ethics. We are still in the same chapter, Business Ethics, but we are moving on to a new topic, that is moral philosophies. In the last session, we have discussed what ethics means, right? What business ethics means. What do you mean by business ethics? Business ethics is a field of study that determines whether a business action or a business decision is ethical or not, is acceptable or not, whether it is right or wrong. So that's what you call business ethics. And in business ethics, which methods can we employ, or which tools can we employ to determine an action whether it is ethical or unethical? So my question is, in business ethics, which all tools or methods can we employ to determine an action is ethical or unethical, or to determine an action is right or wrong? So let me tell you this, it is the moral philosophies inside the business ethics we can employ as a tool, as a method to determine whether an action is ethical or unethical. So inside business ethics, we employ the moral philosophies to determine whether an action is ethical or unethical. So I hope now you have got an idea about what moral philosophy means. And moral philosophy contains 6 theories or 6 philosophies that determines whether an action is ethical or unethical. Now let's look into that 6 philosophies. The first philosophy that we are going to discuss is teleology. Now, before getting into the details of teleology, before understanding what teleology means, let me tell you this. Whenever we need a result, we need to take an action or decision, right? So, we take an action or decision, and that will give us a result, and this result may be either good result or bad result. Now let's understand what teleology means. Teleology is one of the moral philosophy that determines an action or decision is ethical based on the final result. It is based on the final result that teleology determines an action or decision is whether it's ethical or unethical. Now, how do teleology determines that? Let's see. Suppose if this action or decision result in a good result, then teleology advocates that this action or decision that you have taken is ethical. Now let's consider the opposite scenario. We have taken an action or decision and suppose it resulted in a bad result. Then you know what teleology advocates, that the decision or action is unethical. So in order to determine whether an action or decision is ethical or unethical, teleology only considers one thing. What result did you get? Whether you got a good result, then the decision is ethical, and if you have got a bad result, then you have taken an unethical action or unethical decision. So teleology only considers the end result to determine an action or decision is ethical or unethical. So that's what teleology means. And to further improve your understanding on the teleology concept, I will give you an example. Now everyone know that telling lie is a bad thing. Telling lie is obviously a bad thing. And what if this telling a lie brings happiness in another person's life. Suppose by telling a lie, what if this telling a lie brings happiness in another person's life? Then it can be considered as a good result, right? Since it resulted in a good result, then this action of telling a lie is an ethical action or ethical decision as per teleology. Teleology only considers the end result, that is, it brought happiness to the other person, and since it is a good result, this telling a lie is also considered ethical. So that's what do you mean by teleology. Now let's move on to the second philosophy, deontology. Deontology is one of the moral philosophy that advocates that an action or decision is ethical or can be considered ethical only if the action or decision is right. Only if the action or decision which has been taken is right, only then the decision or action is ethical. If the action or decision in itself is a wrong action, then it is an unethical activity or unethical action or unethical decision. Now, don't you see there is a difference between this teleology and deontology? This teleology always consider the end result. If the end result is good, then the action or decision is ethical. Now, coming back to deontology, what does deontology say? Deontology doesn't consider the end result. It doesn't even care whether this result is a good result or bad result. It doesn't care anything about the result. It only judges the action or decision itself, and if the action or decision is right, then it is considered ethical. If the action or decision in itself is wrong, then it is considered unethical. And let's go back to the previous example. Telling lie brings happiness in another person's life. So as per teleology, as per deontology, this telling lie, that is this action in itself, is a wrong action. So telling lie is a bad thing. Telling lie is unethical as per deontology. It does not care whether it happens or brings sadness to another person. It doesn't care about the end result. It just considers the action only, action or decision only. And telling lie is a bad thing. So deontology advocates that telling lie is unethical, whereas teleology advocates that if it brings good result, then the action or decision is ethical. So don't you think this teleology and deontology are exactly the opposite? Because teleology only considers the end result and deontology does not even consider the end result. So this is the reason why I say teleology and deontology are exactly the opposites. Now let's discuss the third philosophy, that is virtue ethics. Now what do you mean by virtue ethics? In the last session we have discussed something called virtues, right? Virtues refers to the characteristics of an individual, and we also discussed about some virtuous manager, a man of character, a man of values, and he chose not to dump the waste to the lake. Instead he chose to dispose of the waste in an environment friendly way. So what if there is a situation, okay, and if in case of a situation a virtuous person would do only the right thing in that situation, right? So if I also take the same decision, or if I also take the same action that a virtuous person would have done, then my action can be considered ethical. If a virtuous person would have done the same action in the same circumstances, then I can say that my action or my decision is ethical or is a right decision or right action. So that's what do you mean by the term virtue ethics. The next philosophy that we are going to discuss is utilitarianism. And what do utilitarianism mean? Utilitarianism simply means that if my action or decision brings the greatest good to the greatest number of people. If it results in an advantage or a benefit to the maximum number of people, then my decision or action can be considered ethical, else it cannot be considered ethical. Let's take an example. Suppose there is a company. Okay, this XYZ is a company, and this company has manufactured a product. Now the production process is complete and the company is all set to launch the product on the very next day. And on the same evening, a report has come from a research body. And what does the research say? The research say that any product that uses the ingredient X, let's say this is the ingredient X, and this research body says that any product that uses the ingredient X is likely to cause harm to its users. It's likely to cause harm to its users. So unfortunately, this product also contained ingredient X, and you know what the company did in order to prevent harm happening to any of its customers. The company cancelled the launch of the product. The company took a decision that we will not launch the product, we will inquire further into this matter and then we will take a decision. And for the time being, this product launch has been cancelled, and the company took such a decision. And if the company had gone forward with launching of the product, and if the research body's finding is true, then it would have done more harm to people than good. So this company's decision resulted in a greatest good for the greatest number of people, and as per utilitarianism, what the company did was right, since it resulted in a greatest good for the greatest number of people. And this is what utilitarianism advocates. The fifth philosophy that we are going to study is relativism. Relativism simply means that what is ethical to me may not be ethical to you. What is ethical in one country may not be ethical in another. What is ethical in one culture may not be ethical in another. So it differs from person to person, culture to culture, or country to country. Let me give you an example. There are several people in this world who prefer to eat non-veg, right? They are non-vegetarians. But there are also some people who considers that eating non-veg is an unethical activity, or they cannot think of eating about a non-veg because as per their opinion, eating non-veg is a bad thing, since animals can also feel pain. They are just like us. They also have the same right to live in this world, and humans don't have the right to eat animals. So there are some people who also believe like that. So don't you think that there is a conflict? Don't you think that what is ethical to one group of people is not ethical to another? So what is ethical to one group of people is not ethical to another, and this is what relativism means. There is no universally acceptable right thing, or there is no universally accepted wrong thing. Right thing or wrong thing differs from people to people, culture to culture, or country to country. So eating non-veg is an unethical thing to a group of people, and it is an ethical thing to another group of people. So that's what relativism means. The next philosophy that we are going to discuss is justice. Justice simply means that ensuring fairness in everything, and if any activity or any decision bring fairness, then that action or decision is ethical as per justice. And this justice can be divided into four, that is social justice, distributive justice, restorative justice, and retributive justice. Now let's examine what each of them means. Social justice simply means that ensuring equal opportunities to everyone. Equal educational opportunities, equal employment opportunities, equal political opportunities. Ensuring equality in everything is what social justice means. And any action which brings equality is ethical as per social justice. The second is distributive justice. The assets should be allocated equally within the society, and that's what distributive justice means. Restorative justice: if any person has suffered some loss, then the others need to make good the loss. Suppose if an earthquake has hit South Africa and several people lost their lives, several buildings were collapsed, several houses were collapsed, okay, and this United Nations urged the other countries like United States, United Kingdom, India, to help South Africa to make good their loss, and such an action is ethical as per restorative justice. And retributive justice simply means that if any person has committed a crime, then such an action should be punished. Punishing a criminal is an ethical activity under retributive justice. So this is what justice means, and let me summarize everything for you. There are 6 moral philosophies, and those 6 moral philosophies are teleology, deontology, virtue ethics, utilitarianism, relativism, and justice. What do teleology imply? Teleology simply considers the end result. If the end result is good, then the action or decision is ethical. What do you mean by deontology? Deontology simply considers the action or decision in itself. If the action or decision in itself is right, then it is an ethical activity as per deontology, and deontology does not consider the end result, and that's the reason why teleology and deontology are exactly the opposite. The third one is virtue ethics. What a virtuous person would have done in the same circumstance. If I also have done the same in the same circumstance, then my action or my decision is ethical. Fourth one is utilitarianism. If my action or my decision bring the greatest good for the greatest number of people, then it is an ethical activity under utilitarianism. Fifth is relativism. What is ethical to me may not be ethical to you. What is ethical in one culture may not be ethical in another culture. So it differs from person to person, culture to culture, or country to country, and that's what relativism means. The sixth is justice. Justice can be classified into 4: social, distributive, restorative, and retributive. Social means ensuring equal opportunities to everyone. Distributive justice: assets should be allocated equally within the society. Restorative justice: you need to make good the loss of other person. Retributive justice: any action or any mistake that is punishable shall be punished. So this is what moral philosophies are all about. These moral philosophies can fetch you good marks in the US CMA examination, and it will not even take you more than 2 to 3 seconds to identify the correct answer. So these are easy marks. Make sure that you have understood the concept crystal clearly, and let's meet in the next session with a new topic. Happy learning. Thank you.